Today is Friday, April 28th. I'm Leslie Palma.
And I'm Anthony Visone, in for Theresa Watson, who is at the Heartbeat International Conference in Louisville. We'll have an on-site report from Theresa. In our top story tonight, we'll update you on the latest with the abortion drug Mifepristone and speak to a woman who had a chemical abortion.
Anthony will have all the political news, including the latest on who's planning to run for president in 2024.
Leslie will catch you up on the latest abortion news on the state and national levels.
Be sure to stay tuned until the end when Sean Carney from 40 Days for Life tells us how many babies were saved during the group's Lent campaign. The U.S. Supreme Court last week decided the abortion drug Mifepristone can remain on the market while a legal challenge to the way the drug was approved by the FDA in the year 2000 continues. The ruling reversed that of a federal district court judge who wanted sale of the drug halted while the case proceeds, and also negated an opinion of a federal appeals court that would have kept the drug available but restricted its use. On Wednesday, the Biden administration filed a brief with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals defending the initial approval of Mifepristone 23 years ago. The appeals court will hear oral arguments on May 17th.
Mifepristone is the first of two drugs taken in a chemical abortion. It was developed by a French scientist and approved for use in that country in 1988. Dr. Émile Etienne Beaulieu wanted to develop an unpregnancy pill, but what he came up with was more correctly described by another French scientist, pro-life Dr. Jérôme Lejeune, as the first anti-human pesticide. Lejeune predicted Mifepristone would kill more human beings than the estimated 100 million people slain by Hitler, Stalin, and Mao Zedong. With Mifepristone in use in 90 countries of the world, Dr. Lejeune was probably close to the mark.
Beaulieu understood the pivotal role the hormone progesterone plays in early pregnancy, and he asked chemists at the French pharmaceutical company Roussel-Uclaf to develop a fake progesterone that would bind to the progesterone receptors in a mother's womb and make the uterus inhospitable for the embryo. But because the head of the company that controlled Roussel-Uclaf was a pro-life Catholic, Beaulieu lied about his true intentions and said he was looking for something to counteract the stress hormone cortisol. In 1980, the compound Beaulieu envisioned was synthesized. It was registered as Roussel-Uclaf 38486 and originally nicknamed RU486.
In 1994, with the Clinton administration anxious to get hold of the pill, Roussel-Uclaf donated American Rights to the Population Council, a nonprofit organization. The FDA gave conditional approval to the deadly drug in 1996, but no pharmaceutical companies wanted to manufacture it. Enter Danco Laboratories, a New York firm with a post office box for an address, anonymous principals, and unreported sales figures. The company's only product is Mifepristone, which for many years it had manufactured in China. Last week, the company agreed to pay almost $800,000 to the federal government and the pro-life law firm Life Legal Defense for failing to properly label its Chinese imports from 2011 to 2019. But complaints about the company and its Chinese connection go all the way back to the year 2000, when the FDA first approved the drug for use in the U.S.
Beaulieu was convinced he had developed a pill that was, in his words, safe, efficient, and not too difficult for women. But research has shown that chemical abortion has far more complications than surgical abortion, prompting the FDA to stop compiling information on adverse reactions from the abortion pill. So if women are being hurt, and we know they are, the government would rather not know. This evening, we are joined by Dora Esparza, the San Antonio Regional Coordinator of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign from Texas, who had a chemical abortion when she was 19 years old. We're joined this evening by Dora Esparza. She's the San Antonio Regional Coordinator for the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, and she had a chemical abortion when she was 19. Welcome, Dora.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, thanks for coming on. So tell us, what made you decide to go the chemical route when you had that abortion?
So they told me at Planned Parenthood that the chemical abortion would be more private and less invasive. I was 8 weeks at the time that I found out I was pregnant, and we were going to proceed with an abortion. So being able to do that in the comfort of my home and not dealing with what was considered invasive was what appealed to me during that time. It just seemed more private and more comfortable.
Mhm. All right. Well, so tell us about your experience. I know the abortion advocates all say that it's no big deal. It's easy. It's pain-free, basically. So tell us, was that your experience?
So, no, that was definitely not my experience at all. I wasn't even prepared to, I wasn't prepared by the staff at Planned Parenthood as to what I was going to expect. They gave me the same narrative. They told me that it was going to feel like a menstrual period, that it was nothing more than just menstrual cramps. But when I took that second dose at home and I allowed those pills to dissolve in my mouth, within 15 minutes, I started to feel cramping like menstrual periods, but it to progress into very extreme, painful cramping. So I made my way to the bathroom and I locked the door. I was at my boyfriend's apartment at the time. And the pain became so excruciating that I had to bite down on the hand towel to keep from screaming. My boyfriend and his friends were out in the living. It was a smaller apartment, so I was very embarrassed at the fact that I was going through all of this, and it was just blacking in and out of pain. Now that I'm a mom of two and I've gone through the actual labor experience, the pain that I realized what it was full contractions. So, and it makes sense. It makes logical sense that you're contracting out your baby. And so I was experiencing contractions by myself on the toilet, knowing that that's what I was going to experience,
Mhm.
and thinking that I was going to die, to be honest with you. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie that shows the graphic scenes of the woman who has an abortion in her bathroom by Abby Johnson. And that was literally the scenes that I lived through and I went through. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't made exaggerated or anything. That's exactly what I went through.
How long a procedure was it? From the time you took those second pills till it was over.
To be honest, if I had to estimate, it was a couple hours
Mhm.
of the extreme pain. I was blacking in and out, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very drugged. I started drinking heavily and doing a lot of drugs during that time to kind of cope. So it's kind of a blur as far as the time is. But in the bathroom, I want to say I was in there about almost 2 hours with extreme pains, and then I made my way to the bathroom or the bedroom. I'm sorry, and I spent the rest of that day just sleeping it out,
Mhm.
and from there just spiraled.
Was the bleeding very heavy?
It was a lot of clots. It was images of my baby that I'll forever see. They told me at Planned Parenthood, they advise that you don't look in the toilet, but I feel almost like the story of Lot, of just turning around and seeing everything. And it's kind of hard to not look down when you're flushing the toilet. There was blood everywhere. There was blood on the floor. I was very embarrassed at the fact that there was so much blood, and I ended up cleaning it up by myself, to keep for my boyfriend and his friends of seeing that. And the bleeding continued about a couple weeks after that. Not as heavy, but it did continue bleeding after that as well.
Now you said that you got the pills from Planned Parenthood. Did they do any kind of follow-up with you?
They did advise to go back to a 2 week follow up checkup. I was very convinced that I would not go. I wanted nothing more to do with the memory of what had happened. My boyfriend convinced me to go to my checkup, which I'm very grateful for, because when I went for my checkup 2 weeks later, they found out that the pill was actually unsuccessful. And they
Oh.
had told me that if I did not go to my checkup, I would have died from hemorrhaging or infection. And so it was only because of going to that checkup that they were able to proceed with an invasive DNC, emergency procedure, to complete the job.
Oh, wow. Oh, so you had the worst of both worlds.
I did.
Yeah. So when you're hearing all this, when you hear in the media that it's easy and it's safe and it's private, and what do you want to say to to people who might be thinking they should believe that?
It's it's lies. It's the same lies that were fed to me. the same lies that I hear every day working at the Pregnancy Resource Center. I have women who are meeting strangers in parking lots to get the pills, the people they don't know. I mean, and they're not even getting consultations anymore. And that's something that I tell the women at the clinic all the time. I tell them, I tell them my experience, and then I tell them, like, had I not gone to my checkup, I would have been dead. And these women who are taking pills, whether they're getting it mailed, whether they're picking it up from a stranger, they're not following up with a doctor, which makes it even that much more dangerous. And so that is my concern, is if we're incredibly concerned for the women, right, then we should be concerned for their health and safety. And what that is doing, what the pill is doing to women, is anything but that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you said the worst of the pain started when you took the Mifepristone, the second pill. And that's what they were talking about. If Mifepristone gets taken off the market, they'll just use Mifepristone. But what I understand is that it causes this pain, and it's much less reliable in terms of, completing the abortion. So that's going to be, another horror show for women, basically.
It is. And it's very, the whole procedure, I like you said, I experienced both. Both are very isolating situations. And but the pill is just, especially because you're not told beforehand what you're expecting.
Right.
You are just at the mercy of going through it and going through all these fears of, am I going to die? Am I going to bleed out? What do I do? When do I call an ambulance?
Right.
When do I go to and there's a lot of women dying because they don't know. They think it's normal, or they don't know, or it's not 100% successful, like in my case, but never go for it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, I really thank you for coming on and sharing your experience, because I think it's important for people to know what it's really like. So I really do thank you, and thank you for the work you do at the Pregnancy Center. That's fantastic.
Of course. Thank you again so much. And honestly, any opportunity I have to share the truth of what happened to me, to even help prevent one person from making that decision, it's worth it.
Definitely.
And I just hope that this speaks to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Biden has finally announced his intention to seek re-election in 2024. The 80-year-old president made the announcement in a 3-minute video released Tuesday. Biden has no immediate plans to hit the campaign trail, but he has named Julie Chavez Rodriguez as his campaign manager. As the director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Rodriguez, the granddaughter of labor leader Cesar Chavez, is the highest-ranking Latina in the Biden administration. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, Biden's chief Democratic rival in the 2020 election, has said he will not run again and will do everything he can to help get Biden reelected. The Democratic National Committee is not planning to hold primary debates. Florida legislators took action this week to make it easier for Governor Ron DeSantis to run for president. An amendment to the state Senate's latest election bill would change the state's Resign to Run law to specifically allow Florida office holders to run for president or vice president without having to give up their current positions. Under current law, a public official may not run for another office with a term of service that overlaps the official's current position without sending a resignation letter. In DeSantis' case, that letter would have to be sent 10 days before Florida's presidential qualification deadline in the beginning of December. In a speech that's not winning her any friends in the pro-life community, Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley said the next president will need to find a national consensus on abortion, and inserted that no Republican president will have the ability to ban abortion nationwide. The former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador made the remarks Tuesday at an event hosted by Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. The organization supports a 15-week ban on abortion, but Ms. Haley did not endorse that bill during her speech. Republican megadonor Peter Thiel had some bad news for next year's political candidates. He and his checkbook are going to sit out the 2024 elections. Thiel reportedly unhappy with Republican efforts to ban abortion and regulate who can use which locker room, Thiel is an openly gay entrepreneur who co-founded PayPal and is said to be worth $4.2 billion. Thiel donated $1.5 million to candidate Trump in 2016, but did not donate to Trump's failed re-election effort in 2020. But in 2022, he gave $35 million to 16 national Republican candidates, and 12 of them won their races.
The U.S. government is officially in the abortion business, with taxpayers about to foot the $1.5 million bill for the Department of Health and Human Services to launch an abortion hotline to help women find a place to abort their children. This is now the third way the Biden administration has overlooked the Hyde Amendment, which since 1976 has prevented the federal government from funding abortion. Biden turned Veterans Affairs facilities into abortion businesses, with taxpayer funding used to abort the children of veterans and their dependents. And the Department of Defense also has begun providing leave and covering expenses, illegally, for service members who have to travel to have an abortion. In retaliation, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, a Republican, has blocked 184 military promotions and says he won't advance them until defense reverses its policy. Planned Parenthood's latest annual report shows that the nation's #1 abortion seller killed almost 20,000 more babies in 2021 than it did in 2019. Planned Parenthood kills 1,025 babies every day and controls almost 40% of the abortion market. According to Dr. Michael New, a researcher for the Charlotte Lozier Institute, the number of abortions at Planned Parenthood has increased 75% in the last 20 years. In 2022, the abortion seller received more than $670 million from the federal government. A new poll shows that while a majority of Americans don't want to see abortion criminalized, 2/3 of respondents want abortion limited to the first trimester. 9 out of 10 Republicans and even 42% of Democrats want to see abortion restricted to 3 months or less, according to the latest NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll. Lawmakers representing Washington State in Congress yesterday introduced legislation to prevent abortion restrictions in some states from being used to prosecute abortionists in states where the procedure remains legal. U.S. Senator Patty Murray and Representative Kim Schreier say the bill is necessary to ensure that doctors in states like Washington can continue to provide essential care without being threatened with jail time or lawsuits. North Dakota's Republican Governor Doug Burgum on Monday signed a heartbeat bill into law. This bill clarifies and refines existing state law and reaffirms North Dakota as a pro-life state, Burgum said. Currently, there are no abortion businesses in North Dakota. The Kansas legislature on Wednesday voted to override Governor Laura Kelly's veto of a Born Alive bill that mandates emergency life-saving care for newborns who survive abortion. The bill will now become law. Republican Representative Ron Bryce, a physician, said he personally provided aid to 27 babies who survived an abortion. "We are moral people," Bryce said. "We provide care for those who are weak, for those who are disadvantaged, for those who are innocent and powerless." The South Carolina Human Life Protection Act had a second reading in the state Senate this week, with third and final reading still pending. The act would ban abortion at conception and make South Carolina the 16th state to enact meaningful protections for the unborn. A federal judge on Monday heard arguments in a suit against a ban on abortion pill reversal in Colorado. State authorities have said they will not enforce the controversial new measure until the state's medical boards have a chance to weigh in, but the operators of a Catholic Pregnancy Resource Center said the state's promise was insufficient. Colorado Governor Jared Polis 2 weeks ago signed the law, making it a crime for physicians in the state to treat women with progesterone in an effort to save their babies. And finally, toy maker Mattel has introduced the first Barbie with Down syndrome. "Our goal is to enable all children to see themselves in Barbie," said Mattel Executive Vice President Lisa McKnight. The National Down Syndrome Society worked with Mattel to design the doll with a shorter frame and longer torso than its other dolls. The doll also has a rounder face and almond-shaped eyes, and even has the single line in the palm of its hand that is a characteristic of those with Down syndrome. About 6,000 babies with the chromosomal disorder are born each year in the United States, but it's estimated that 60 to 90% of them, of Down syndrome babies, are aborted annually. And that's abortion in the news.
We mentioned that Theresa Watson is at the Heartbeat International Conference in Louisville with National Director Frank Pavone, Executive Director Janet Morana, and the Resource Department's Rico Kerme. Heartbeat is an organization that counts more than 3,000 pregnancy help centers, maternity homes, and nonprofit adoption agencies on all 6 inhabited continents. Theresa had a chance to talk to Jorel Godsey, president, and Peggy Hartshorn, president emeritus and chairman of the board.
Hello, I'm Theresa Watson with Pro-Life Primetime News, and I'm here at Heartbeat International's conference in Louisville, Kentucky, and I have the president of Heartbeat International, Jorel Godsey, with me. Hi, Jorel.
Hi, Theresa. So glad to have you here with us.
Yes, this is so exciting. The conference is amazing.
Yeah, it just started. So we're all excited about what's been going on. We have a great turnout. We actually have way more than we expected to be here, which is very exciting. You know, kind of watching the conference build, and for our pregnancy help community to come together, it's really special.
How many attendees are here?
Okay, so we have actually 2 conferences going on. So we have the one that's happening in person, so those that have traveled here, and that's over 1,500 people, and they're going to be in this building throughout the next few days, including our exhibitors. We have a great number of exhibitors here, and attendees, registrants, teachers, speakers, all of that. But we also have a conference that's running online, so it's a virtual conference. Some different things, some common themes and common subjects, but different presentations. So we're really excited to have it together to be our biggest ever, at more than 1,800 altogether.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's incredible. So we just had an amazing lunch, so kudos to whoever picks out the food. I'm Italian, so it's always about food for me. So great job there. But I'm going to put you on the spot. You were talking about some pretty amazing stats regarding Heartbeat in there. So can you share some of those with us?
A little bit, yes. So we actually we're excited to announce. We showed the crowd a graph that's been growing for the last 10 years of growth at Heartbeat, the affiliation numbers, and they've nearly doubled in even just the last 10 years, actually more than doubled. So we now have more than 3,300 affiliated locations around the globe. And what's coming later tonight is going to be really fun. It's a parade of nations. We're going to have, I think it's 93 flags are going to be represented, and 22 of those countries have people here that will be carrying those flags. So it's part of being Heartbeat International. While most of our crowd is from the U.S., we have a strong number of internationals that have traveled. Some of them have taken 2 and 3 days to get here, traveled 5 countries from across continents, but are here with us, and we're able to celebrate them.
It's amazing. I've been here before, and that parade just, I cry every year, so it's spectacular. So you also shared statistics on the abortion pill reversal. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. We were seeing, so as we were moving into COVID, we took over the Abortion Pill Rescue Network in 2018, and it had been going for about 5 or 6 years at that point. And we were able to kind of begin to grow it even faster. And so from 2018, 19, 20, we were able to actually triple the numbers in 3 years. And it was in 2021 that it was big tech. Google actually censored our ads. And I remember the day they turned them off in September. And even with Google putting their thumb on this whole issue, kind of bullying really the idea that women can have this option, we've still seen the abortion pill rescue numbers climb year after year. Not at the same rate, but every year we've been able to see a new record number of lives. And last year alone, it was 1,764 starts, APR starts, which we know we'll see at least about 70% of those will be live births, and we're very excited for that's still growing even in spite of the opposition.
You know, it's so amazing to me that there is an opposition, right? They talk about choice, right? It's all about choice. Well, if a woman changes her mind, and why wouldn't she have the opportunity for that choice? What's behind that mindset?
It's hard to understand. It's even more odd when you think about why does the abortion industry care? Because they've already gotten their money for the abortion, they've already received their profit, but they can't abide the fact that there is a reality that women regret taking the abortion pill. In fact, they do so often within 75% of the women that reach us at the Abortion Pill Rescue Network do so within the first 24 hours. So it's not something that happens over time. It happens actually rather suddenly. Some people, Theresa, call us right from the parking lot of the abortion clinic. And of course, now we know that chemical abortion is being delivered to their homes, it's being sent through the mail. And so we know that regret comes up. And I think that's the Holy Spirit at work. And of course, a woman should be able to choose to withdraw her consent from an abortion she no longer wants. And yet there are those that would make sure that is never possible. and we were talking about the state of Colorado, is actually trying to ban it in their legislation. They passed that law. The governor signed it. It's not being enforced at the moment. It's some question about its legality, and we hope to see that. That taken away, because that really peels back the curtain, so to speak, and shows that the abortion industry isn't really about choice. They are about abortion, because now they're trying to prevent women from even pursuing that as an option in their state.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an opportunity last week to talk to Dr. George Delgado. We had him on the show, and he was talking specifically about the Colorado case. So what is the fear, though, at Heartbeat, that if something like that does go through, I mean, are other states going to follow through? Are you hearing anything about other states?
Well, absolutely. So we've been hearing already. Illinois is looking at this, something similar. We know Connecticut, certainly California, any of the abortion states are lining up to do all that they can. In some ways, it's odd. It feels frankly like a temper tantrum by the abortion industry, because these other states, the life states, have actually banned the abortion pill. So they're looking for anything that they can kind of fight back on, and kind of this tit for tat kind of business, and that's what it feels like anyway to me. I don't know that, but it feels that way. Like they're searching for something, and of all things, they're taking away choice from women in the process, so that she might choose to have that one last chance to choose life for her child.
Well, thank you so much. I know you're very, very busy, so this was really special for you to take the time. But where can people go and find out more about Heartbeat?
So thank you for that. Heartbeat International is always a good site, heartbeatinternational.org. But I would encourage everyone to be mindful of optionline.org. If you want to know about a pregnancy help center near you, if you want to know about a pregnancy help organization, that's the best place to go. If you don't find one near you, reach out to us. We might know of some others. But optionline.org is that number, that resource that every person should know in case they encounter someone who actually needs us, or needs this kind of pregnancy help for them or for someone that they know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jarrell. I can't wait for tonight to see the parade. Awesome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm Theresa Watson, Pro-Life Primetime News. Hello, I'm Theresa Watson with Pro-Life Primetime News, and I'm at the Heartbeat International Conference here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I have with me the chairperson of the board, Peggy Hartshorn. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you, Theresa. So glad to be with you, and so glad you're here at our conference.
It's so exciting. The electricity here is just amazing. We just came from an amazing lunch, and everyone is so excited in there. So tell us a little bit about, you've been involved with Heartbeat for how long?
Oh, well, my husband and I and a group of our friends opened the first pregnancy center in Columbus, Ohio. We opened our doors January 22nd, 1981. And we had the courage to do that because we knew, we had experienced, there was an organization called, at that time, Alternatives to Abortion International, now called Heartbeat International, that was a group of pregnancy centers that could help you learn how to start a pregnancy center, learn how to work with women. So we knew there was help available. We felt that call. We knew that there was not enough pregnancy help in our community. There was no pregnancy center. So knowing that there was some place to go, a conference we could attend, there were people already doing it that could help inspire and teach and mentor. So we went to our first Heartbeat conference, my husband and I, in 1980. And it was in Chicago, and actually, you see how much things have changed. You see how many workshops we have here, how many resources, manuals. Heartbeat has an online academy. At that point, pretty much what they had was a few workshops. One was called How to Start a Pregnancy Center. It was 45 minutes, and they said, go out and do it. Just do it. God will help. And here's a 10-page brochure that'll give you some help. But they were there to mentor, to provide educational materials, a magazine, newsletter. And I knew at that point how much the support was important for the ministry God had called my husband and me to. So I knew how valuable Heartbeat was for new centers, and for the centers who were there at that conference in 1980 that were presenting. They were giving information about what they did, how their programs worked, what they had learned, what they were trying, how things were working, and they were encouraging each other and giving each other support. So that was so important to my husband and me when we were starting our pregnancy center. And then as we continued with Alternatives to Abortion International, attending their conference every year, bringing our board members, we just kept getting better ideas and growing. And we brought board members to the conference and our staff members and volunteers, and it was just vital to our growth. So eventually, I joined the board of Alternatives to Abortion International in 1986. And when there was a leadership change there, our founders were retiring and getting older, and so I ended up knowing that God was asking me to take a bigger role and not just come into the movement as a volunteer, but to do it more full time. So I actually became the first paid staff person of Heartbeat International, which was 1993. So I started as a volunteer, and at that point, actually, Alternatives to Abortion International was all volunteer. They had no paid staff. And the same was true of most pregnancy centers. So you see what God has done in the movement. And I had been so affected by the support and the educational aspect and the sharing and the spiritual nourishment that was coming from those conferences every year, that was a major commitment for me when I became Heartbeat president, that we were going to not only continue our conferences, we've had a conference every year since 1972. Heartbeat was founded in 1971 as Alternatives to Abortion International. Since 1972, we have had a conference every year.
Is this the largest one? Because it seems
bigger every year. Yes, this is the largest one. We've got over 1,500 people right here, but we have another 300 in a virtual conference. We started our virtual conference because of COVID, and it's a totally different program of speakers also and workshops in addition to what people here in person, so they can, once they've registered for this conference, they also have access for another month to all the workshops and speakers in the virtual conference. So it's a gigantic package of education, training, encouragement, spiritual refreshment, and that was provided to me and to my husband when God called us. And so it's been on our heart, and my heart as chairman of the board. Our entire board and our staff were so committed to that, being that help and support for those called into this ministry, just as they are called to be the help and support and the love for the mothers on the ground, the mothers in their communities who need help.
Well, it's amazing to me. I've been several years, coming to the workshops, to the conference as well, and I see people from so many different states here, right, and countries, right, so many different countries. But they all, you'll listen to them talking at the tables, and you think, oh, they're all from the same pregnancy center, and they're not, and they're just, they immediately love each other, and it's just an amazing environment here. So, what are some of the main things that you educate on?
Well, we have numerous workshop tracks at every conference. This year we have 2 medical tracks because, of course, so many pregnancy centers provide ultrasound. They've added other medical services. We now have abortion pill reversal, and that team is part of the Heartbeat Network, Abortion Pill Reversal. So we have always quite a few medical workshops. We have continuing education units that medical people need, that nurses need. We do an ultrasound training. But then we have tracks also for leadership. One is called Leadership, includes spiritual leadership. We have training for board members. We had a whole in-depth day this year for boards, for staff, for marketing, for communications, for fundraising, things that staff need, volunteer enrichment, particularly also for staff, how to really develop a relationship with the people that God sends to us, whether they're calling on the phone, whether they're coming in, because it's out of a relationship that we can really make sure that we're not just focusing on our agenda, but that we know what is happening in the depths of that woman's heart, and we can approach her and provide the kind of love and support that she needs. So always training in that. We have this year, and almost always, a housing track, because so many of our centers are opening homes, or homes are growing and expanding now with our realization that abortion is going to be limited in many states for women, and we praise God for that. But women are going to need more and more support. And so extending that support in the maternity home realm. And so we've got all kinds of services and support, education that will undergird every aspect of pregnancy help. Healing, I should have mentioned, certainly always tracks on healing. And this year we're hearing sometimes God has kind of a theme that comes out, and we're just starting the conference, but there seems to be a theme coming out this year of really realizing that that healing is essential. And we can kind of gloss over some of the real deep needs of women. Yes, they'll save their baby. Yes, they can go through the parenting classes. Yes, we may be even providing them with shelter. But what about the depths of their hearts and the healing that there's probably a need there because of so much that's happened in our culture, whether they've been victims of abuse or neglect or even human trafficking. We're beginning to identify many more cases of that in our pregnancy centers. Divorce, abandonment. There are just all kinds of hurts in their past. And they need to know that they are worthy, that Jesus loves them, that these wounds can be healed. And so that seems to be something that is to me, I've seen it as emerging as a theme in our conference. And of course, our theme is breakthrough. Yes. So breaking through something that deep, if we can help women and families and men, by the way, too. I just sat at lunch with a gentleman who's started in men's ministry, at the 2 centers that he and his wife have started. And so it's not just about the women, it's about the men, it's about the families, and it's really about what is God calling us to in addition to that issue that may first present itself.
Well, Peggy, it seems like I can't think of anything else that a pregnancy center, would need. It seems like you're really covering everything. But if some of our listeners are out there and they say, I feel like God may be putting this on my heart, my community needs a pregnancy center, and every community does, right? Sure. So where can they go to even start thinking about this and maybe getting some initial information?
Well, we have a website called heartbeatservices.org, and that is specifically for people who either have a pregnancy center or are thinking of starting a pregnancy center. It will give you good ideas of what kinds of resources Heartbeat has available. And so start there if you'd like to find out more about what Heartbeat can provide to help start a pregnancy center. And we're all about relationship. So, you can email us, support@heartbeatinternational.org. We have people actually answering the phone, believe it or not. We very seldom have to go to an answering machine. But our phone number is 614-885-7577, 614-885-7577. So we're there. We're there to answer your questions, to provide a helping hand, however that we can. And we invite people who are interested to come to our conference. I'm not allowed to say where the conference is next year, but you can find it out soon on heartbeatservices.org. Plan to be with us in person. That would be wonderful.
Well, it's always very exciting. I think on the last day, right, you always let us know.
Yes,
so
we're a big reveal of where it's going to be next year.
Yes.
So we do move around the country.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So we're excited for that, and I know this is a very busy day for you and a busy week. So I feel honored that you've taken the time to talk with me today. So thank you, Peggy.
Thank you so much, Theresa. It's always a joy, and thank you for being here. And our people who come to be part of the conference, like you, are really supporting the mission. Thank you.
We're honored to be here. So and again, that number is, the email is support@Heartbeat International, and the phone number is 614-885-7577. I'm Theresa Watson, Pro-Life Primetime News.
40 Days for Life is an internationally coordinated campaign that aims to end abortion through prayer and fasting, community outreach, and peaceful vigils in front of abortion businesses.
We have with us tonight Sean Carney, the president and CEO of 40 Days for Life, to discuss the amazing results from this year's campaign. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
Sean, before we get to this year's results, 40 Days for Life has become a worldwide movement. How many nations host campaigns, and how many volunteers and participants do you think you have?
We're up to 64 countries now. So 40 Days for Life it started in College Station, Texas, and it's now gone to 1,500 cities in 64 different countries. And about 3 years ago, actually, we crossed the 1 millionth volunteer to participate in 40 Days for Life. So we're 1 million strong and growing, and we saw a lot of growth post-Roe. We saw with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a lot of people get off the fence and say, I've always wanted to lead, or I've always thought about going out to pray at an abortion facility, but now they're actually doing it.
That's fantastic.
That's great. So 40 Days for Life started in 2007, I believe. Would you give us a brief history, Sean, of how you got started?
Yeah, well, we did the first campaign in 2004 in College Station, Texas, and never thought we'd ever hear the term 40 Days for Life ever again. It was a local effort that we did, 40 days of prayer, fasting, and a 24-hour vigil outside of our Planned Parenthood. And then we just started getting requests for it. And so in 2007, David B. Wright and I launched 40 Days for Life as a nationally coordinated effort, hoping that it would get 20 or 25 cities, and we had 89 cities in the fall of 2007. That led to a Lent campaign. So over all these years, we've done a fall campaign and a Lent campaign, and that's how the recent Lent campaign was our largest ever in 604 cities. We also have over 60 cities that do 40 Days for Life 365 out of their abortion facilities a year round.
Wow. How many? 60 cities, did you say?
Yes. And that's a growing number. That's a program we've really worked on. It's part of 40 Days for Life University, where we train current good leaders and kind of make their campaigns from good to great and take them year round. And that's detrimental to the bottom line of an abortion facility when you're out there every single day of the year or all the business days of the year. It really has an awesome impact on their bottom line. And it's very important now in a post-Roe America.
All right, so a two-part question. How many babies were saved this year, and do you have a total from the beginning?
Yes, so the total from the beginning is 23,586.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the recent campaign. We continue to get those reports in. It's over 600 babies, which is up about 140 babies from the fall campaign, and so we see a huge increase in the number of saved babies in the most pro-abortion states. We really saw that happen since Roe. So California, we've had record numbers of saves. Washington State, Illinois, those places, we just continue to get stronger. Those are our strongest states, anyways. But the results are hitting records in those locations.
That's great news.
Those numbers are amazing. Sean, where can our viewers go to support 40 Days for Life and find out more about how they can help?
Well, you can go to 40daysforlife.com. Everything is there. We have a free podcast, which is very, very popular. We have Day 41 Magazine, which is a quarterly magazine, which is free and is very popular. You can donate there. You can sign up for our email list. We send out a lot of updates. It's a very, very busy time for us. We had a plan for post-Roe America, but I think we underestimated the high demand that 40 Days for Life would be in. We knew there'd be an uptick because we're located in the grassroots, and you're not ending abortion in California legally. It's not going to happen without a constitutional amendment. And so the need for the grassroots efforts, which is really went sky high. And that's why we work so closely with the pregnancy resource centers, because we're in all these cities. But it's been very busy. It's been very busy for the best reason, because the Supreme Court did what they should have done and overturned Roe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back as your fall campaign gets closer.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sean.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for joining us on Pro-Life Primetime News, produced at Priests for Life headquarters in Titusville, Florida. We hope you will join us every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
We hope you will support this show and all of our broadcasts by making a donation to prolifegift.org. These donations help fund all of our work here at Priests for Life, which enables us to continue educating, equipping, and activating the pro-life community to end abortion. I'm Anthony Visone, Resource Associate.
I'm Leslie Palma, Communications Director. Remember, life is the only choice.